morning and welcome to the chat on Newsday Amarillo and News Channel 10-2. I'm David Lovejoy.
Hello, everybody. I'm Rhonda Lawner.
Chuck's away from the desk a little bit under the weather this morning, and so we wish him well. He'll be back hopefully tomorrow. We've talked about this. We talk about this in many forms here at Alpha Media and at News Channel 10. We do a lot of work with the High Plains Food Bank. Food insecurities, homelessness, they really kind of go hand in hand. And we talk about how it's almost a cycle and a chain. There's sometimes substance abuse involved. Sometimes it's just a draw of bad luck. But we have seen the numbers rising. We see it across the High Plains here. And you don't think it affects you, but yeah, right here in the High Plains, we have a high number of people who go without shelter. National nonprofit experts here are available to share some current homeless numbers nationwide and locally. Ms. Ann Oliva, CEO of the National Alliance to End Homelessness, and Mr. Donald Whitehead. He's the executive director of the National Coalition for the Homeless. Ladies, gentlemen, thank you for taking time out and visiting with us today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Like I said, this is we live in a community of about 300, not even 300,000, 250, 260,000 people. It's a kind of a center hub here in West Texas. We're in between larger cities like Oklahoma City, Albuquerque, Dallas to the south. But we've seen, you can't avoid seeing the numbers. The pandemic may have brought some of this on. How many people are we looking at nationwide right now and locally are without homeless? And having knowing friends and having worked in this, you might have a place to sleep, but it's not your place. A lot of couch surfing, that sort of stuff. That counts as a homeless number, right?
Well, so HUD did release its 2023 point-in-time count data at the very end of last year. And we know that more than 600,000 people nationwide are experiencing homelessness across the country. But that doesn't actually account for folks who are doubled up or, as you mentioned, couch surfing, because it's really hard to count that particular population. The population that's counted through HUD's numbers are folks who are living on the street, folks who are in shelter programs and in other places that aren't really meant for human habitation.
You know, when we drive around our city here, we see them everywhere. It seems like, and like David alluded to, the numbers are growing, and we try to figure this out. Like, why are they there? You know, all these thoughts come into my head. Like, what contributed to this? What are the factors that are driving the homeless crisis right now?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think I'll start by saying that we all agree that communities are stronger when everybody who lives in that community has a safe and stable place to call home, right? So we should all be really concerned about the 12% increase that HUD reported at the end of last year, which was the 2023 count. And the factors that we've been tracking, in the homeless services sector, we are disappointed in those numbers, but we're not actually surprised because we've actually seen this coming. The first and probably most prominent factor is the affordable housing crisis in this country. Rents have skyrocketed since the pandemic. There aren't enough units that are affordable for people who need them. And that means people are spending more and more of their income towards rent. And we know that that means that it puts them at risk for housing instability, eviction, and homelessness. The second thing that we've been tracking is that the social safety net, the thing that's supposed to protect us when we get into trouble, can't keep up with the need. And when that happens, more people become homeless than the homeless services system has the capacity to serve. And then the last thing you've already alluded to, and that is that the safety net that was created during the pandemic, those protections like the eviction moratorium and like assistance with rent, ended just as those rents started to skyrocket nationwide, putting a lot of people in a really tough place and increasing the number of people experiencing homelessness.
I see behind you, homelessness is a crisis, not a crime. And Probably before the pandemic, 2018, 2019, our city council moved to have a coming home program. And we have now started to institute a point in time count, and we started to track these things. We've seen a kind of a different thing now. Now they're, because of panhandling, things like that, they're almost criminalizing. They're making it a penalty offense or whatever. Most times, I think the officers just ask people to move along. Why do we have this misconception of who's homeless and what these people are and why it's not always a criminal intent or a hustle or why? How does that create another barrier for this problem?
Well, I would say that, to your point, that most people experiencing homelessness are just like the people in every other sector of our society. A lot of misconceptions. One is that homelessness is intractable, but it's actually solvable. We can solve homelessness. We have to do the things that Ann talked about. We have to increase affordable housing in Texas and across the country. And we have to stop criminalizing homelessness, arresting people and putting them in jail because of their quality of life and things that they have to do because they don't have a home. Does not solve homelessness. If we could solve homelessness by arresting people, we would have solved it a long time ago. And Ann will allude to many reasons why criminalization doesn't work. So the population, what I want people to know is first that homeless people are people and they look just like you. They're mothers, fathers, sisters, and daughters. And we're much safer when all of these people, including unaccompanied children, are in their own homes.
Mm. So how can we help and advocate for our homeless population?
That's a great question. But before I get to that, to how folks can take action, I do want to note a couple of things just to build on something that Donald said. We know that criminalization doesn't work. Affordable housing plus the services that people need to maintain that housing is what works. We actually cut homelessness among veterans in this country over just a few years using that approach. And the approach of criminalization doesn't work for a number of reasons. It makes it much harder for people to access their service providers when they have to move around a lot. Ticketing or fining or arresting people who don't have money for basic needs like food and shelter doesn't actually end their homelessness, and it burdens law enforcement. And we know that some of the laws that criminalize folks actually divert money away from the affordable housing that we need into these sort of punitive and short-term tactics like criminalization. We really want people to get involved in this work to fight criminalization and to end homelessness. And to get started, folks can go to our website. That's endhomelessness.org/criminalization, where you can get videos and more contacts that are local to help you figure out how to do work in your state or community.
Endhomelessness.org is the place. This is courtesy of the National Alliance to End Homelessness. Guys, thank you so much. Very informative. We really appreciate it. And we have to make this change. Thank you for your time today.
And thank you for your time. Thank you for.
Thank you.